What's going on, everybody? Non here, and it's time for this week at Distro. I don't think we did it last week because I was traveling. So here we go. So this is a magazine exchange page, and I'm going to talk all distribution today. Since I just pretty much spoke with everybody. So let's talk Magic. We'll start here. I'm actually going to do a video right after this. I'm going to start doing a couple of Magic the Gathering videos weekly. We have a pretty decent number of Magic the Gathering players in Discord now. So just to give some thoughts there now that it's getting a little interesting. But Innistrad Remastered, collector boosters still available at MagX. They're not available anywhere else. Play boosters are pretty much available across the board. I know Rudy put out a video about Dust or Bloomborough being back ordered for sale or for reprint. But if you look here, they are on the site somewhere here. There we go. Blueborough, no, it's Spawner Horizons. There we go. For $119.50. So they're out there. They can be had. And I think original price was like $114. So, extra $5. It's not a big deal. So Innistrad Remastered, this is one of these weird sets again. And I've talked about this at length. The spoilers came out and they were like, okay, great. And then we went through the holidays. It was 3 weeks, 4 weeks. Nothing came up. No more spoilers. So, I started to think, is it just a dud of a set where they just super underprinted it? And it kind of looks like that's probably the case. Now, the obviously the price of these boxes here, you can buy them for $259, but the price of these boxes in the open market's like $280 plus tax now. They're starting to dry up. I think there's like 350-ish or so for sale on TCG Player. But I think once these dry up, it's going to be a cool set. You obviously have the Halloween-ish theme, even though it didn't come out around Halloween. So it'll be cool. Moving to Aether Drift. This is a weird one as well. I think, it was a banger coming out of the gate. Quite honestly, I still like the set personally. But then everybody started to kind of correlate this with Karlov Manor. They came out about the same time. Karlov Manor a year ago, this one here. And the price plummeted. And I know some people didn't like the concept, but I've yet to talk to anybody who hasn't actually liked the play of the set. But they have collectors here at 219, limit 6 per account. That's a very, very high number for open order for a short supply product. I think the collector boxes long-term are going to do extremely well. But right now, they're just going to kind of dump into the market until people decide that they want to rip them. And there's strong positive expected value. And quite honestly, I don't know what the EV is of these. But in my mind, the cheaper they get, the more interesting they get. So moving on to Tarkir. So Magazine Exchange has allocated Tarkir. They're one of those distributors who allocates their boxes ahead of time. The rest of the open orders for Tarkir, that would be your collectors, your play, your commander decks, and your bundles. I think there's 5 commander decks. There's like a starter bundle and a regular bundle. They're not due till this week coming up. And I'm going to do my video on that. But I kind of like the set. No, I don't want to over order because I don't want to lock myself out of anything else that comes out between now and then, because I think there's going to be some opportunity with a lot of Pokemon product coming to market. But I think it's going to be super interesting set. And stay tuned for the Magic video. I'm going to post pretty much the same time as this one because it's going to be interesting. Commander decks, everything's reprinted. Everything's readily available here. Most of these still have pretty strong EV. If you notice on here, Bloomborough is no longer on the in stock. So I think they're all gone. I know they've sold through for everybody else. And then, obviously it was a race to zero on TCG Player. Most of these stores can't help themselves because they're just living for the next nickel, and it's a race to zero. So, it is what it is. It's the world we live in. Play boxes, set boxes, it's not really worth talking about there. So that's pretty much it for Magic. I will touch on Final Fantasy real quick. So Final Fantasy, I think I mentioned a couple times that they changed the way they are handling distribution and ordering for Final Fantasy. So with Tarkir, for example, we'll place our order next week. We'll have our a good idea of what our allocation is going to be by the Friday after. And then that's going to be it because the product's already printed. But with Final Fantasy, we had to place our order last week, and we're not going to know until at the end of April what we're going to get. But what Hasbro is doing is they're accumulating all of the order information from the distributors, and that's going to presumably change how much of each product they print. Because I think, they don't want to underprint it because they saw what happened with Fallout, which would be great if that happened again. But then again, Hasbro's leaving a bunch of money on the table because everybody's going to expect this to perform similar to what Fallout did. So, it's interesting. It's going to be printed much more strongly than the sets we're seeing now, but there's going to be much more demand. So we'll see what the allocations look like when the time comes. So moving to Pokemon, everything is quiet with Pokemon right now. There's not much product out there other than Surging Sparks bundles. Most distributors have Surging Sparks bundles. They have 151 bundles. And then they have Twilight Masquerade bundles, all relatively limited. Here you can see this is limited to 10 per account per week. Some limit you to a booster display for 151, a case of Surging. All of the Twilight that I've seen has been limited to one case of bundles or less. And the pricing is kind of all over the place. So the initial pricing for your standard set bundles is between $16 and $16.50, depending on the distributor. Here you can see Surging Sparks Magazine Exchange is selling for $25. We've gotten them anywhere from $16, which is super, super rare, to $20 to $25 is kind of the average. But then we've had people charge us $34 per. And in this instance, you just take them. You just take the maximum spend, and it's not about getting ahead right now with distribution because you're not going to get ahead. There's too much demand. It's all about not falling behind and letting somebody jump you or leapfrog you. So you have to buy everything when they come out with bundles, whether you like it or not. I have a lot of play decks. Give them to friends, give them to family, get their kids playing. So moving on to the meat of this. So there is a sizable reprint coming that they don't even mention anything else about Pokemon. So there's a sizable reprint coming. I anticipate most of the distributors are going to get their product late next week for the Pokemon Company, depending on where they're at. I mean, I would imagine it's going to ship out of North Carolina. Once they get the product, I would assume I'm going to have some idea of what the allocations are next week. Probably have the product delivered by the Friday after, maybe midweek, the week after that. Again, what I'm told is the reprint is meaningful. The goal of the Pokemon Company is to drive the price down as much as they can. Now, I'm skeptical whether that's going to happen or not, but what I'm being told is that the price from distribution is not going to be the 20% below market that we've seen on a lot of these products because there's some significant volumes coming. Now, full disclosure, I have not seen an invoice. I've not had an official price quoted to me. I've had estimates quoted to me, which are quite good for everybody involved who's trying to buy product. But until I see an actual invoice and a price quote, I just don't know. So that being said, Paldea Evolved is being reprinted. These are booster boxes. So Paldea Evolved, Obsidian Flames. So all of the talking heads who said SV1 through SV4 aren't going to be reprinted, even though they don't rotate out until April of 2026. That in a quarter, they're being reprinted. Paradox Rift is not. Temporal Forces is not. Temporal Forces has had a reprint in the November timeframe. Some of it's made it to distribution. Some of it has not. It's obviously still available on Pokemon Center, but I do know that one of the distributors was selling Temporal Forces a couple weeks ago. It's limited to 2 boxes per account, which, it's enough for a couple packs, not meaningful. And it was one of those deals where it was like 20% under market. Twilight Masquerade is getting reprinted in booster box form. Stellar Crown is not. So Temporal and Stellar, the 2 sets that have not gotten a reprint so far. Hint, hint. If you're looking to allocate funds, not the worst place in the world. And Surging Sparks is getting a reprint. Now, in talking to our different distribution partners, again, they're saying it's meaningful. We've talked about the price point. It looks like the sets are coming in slightly different quantities. For example, I had one of our distribution partners quoted some varying quantities, and I'll just kind of give you guys round numbers. Let's just use 100 as par. So think of Obsidian Flames of, let's say Twilight Masquerade is par, because Twilight Masquerade is, in my view, is going to have the least amount of demand of all of these sets, if I had to guess. Presumably Obsidian Flames, but let's just say, so if I can get 100 boxes of Twilight Masquerade, I can also get 100 boxes of Obsidian. I can get 125 boxes of Paldea Evolved, but I can get 175 boxes of Surging Sparks. So that's kind of the magnitude that's been communicated. I don't know if those numbers were an ass pull, if there's something meaningful, if they're looking at some sort of ordering and the demand on the products is what's kind of impacting that, which is completely counterintuitive to how I would have expected the math to work if all else is equal. But that was interesting. And then Paldean Fates bundles are coming out. I would imagine Paldean Fates bundles are going to be treated similar to 151, where you're getting one display per week. But again, I have no idea. I just don't know. So all of the boxes are coming out. My base case scenario with what I know is I'm going to be buying the boxes between $100 and $120, regardless of the set. When the October reprint came out of Paldea Evolved, Obsidian Flames, Paradox Rift, my buy price was between $92 and $98 from distribution. And that was, granted, the boxes were, I think, 150, 160 for Paldea Evolved, which is the highest. The other two boxes were still well below MSRP at the time, probably 130, 140, maybe 125. So in this scenario, my base case is I'm going to be able to buy these boxes between 100 and 120. Now, the good news is the concept is there's a lot of margin between the current market value and where all of the stores are going to be able to buy the product for. So generally speaking, in an ordinary market, you would see what happens with the reprints of the Commander decks with Magic, where it's effectively a race to zero or some reasonable margin. So for example, Bloomburrow Commander decks, the displays were selling for about $325 before the reprint. The cost on those was between $108 and $130, depending on the distributor, roughly. And everybody decided they were going to stop at $154 and $99, which presumably is a sale that I had for them right when they came out, and they were still selling for $275 or $250 on TCG Player for my Discord. And the reason why it becomes a race to close to zero is because there's just so much room to move on price, and you still make money. So this isn't the most business astute or business savvy industry in the world. So that stuff happens. I think what's more likely, I think some stores are going to dump it. They're going to take the quick, 30, 40, 50%. But I think a lot of stores are going to sit on it and hold it. And, everybody knows what's happening right now. Why would I list product if every day I don't list it, I have a high degree of confidence I'm going to make more tomorrow? And I think that's what's going to happen. And, the unfortunate thing is it doesn't matter how much product comes to market. If the overwhelming behavior is that the boxes just don't get put on market, or they get put on market right around market value, you're going to have a lot of it available, but only if you're willing to pay the price. And that's a phenomenon in Pokemon that you don't see matched together, because there's always a million stores racing to zero. You have thousands of stores racing to zero with onesies and twosies, and they just get shredded. I think it's going to look very similar in the first, call it 4 to 6 weeks, very similar to what we saw with the Prismatic Evolutions ETBs, where there was just so much scalloping and so much back and forth and onesies and twosies, and people with 10, 20 boxes selling into the market to try to make a quick buck. You just have to churn through all that shit, and it gets eaten up very, very quickly. The rip and shippers are going to be happy because they're going to try to grab as much of this as they can, because I know for a fact they're running out. Everybody I talk to in the space they're dying for product. And I think it's going to disappear quickly. And, if you want to buy the product and hold it long term, this is your shot, but it's going to be a very, very tight window. So that's all I have for now. Have a great Sunday. Like the video, subscribe to the channel. I do this one every week. I know it's limited viewership. It does about a third as well as my other videos, but I think it's far more informative and it's worth the watch. So, guys, join the Discord. We're gonna get a bunch of product in here, and we'll run a sale in the Discord first, and go from there. So, all right, guys, have a good night.